Oh, we've got a standard form of an equation of a line, ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are going to be any number, and a and b cannot be 0 at the same time. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. We want to work with changing back and forth between each, from one form to the other. An example I give you is 3x plus 4y is equal to 24. Right now this is in standard form. And you can identify the a, b, and the c. Now what I want is I want to be able to change that into slope-intercept form. Reasons could be to graph it, to identify pieces about the graph. We could identify the slope, we could identify the y-intercept, but we want to be able to change the form out of standard form. Slope-intercept form, I want to be able to isolate the y. Now when I say isolate the y, we're going to solve for y. And when we do, it'll end up in the form y equals mx plus b. So we've got 3x plus 4y is equal to 24. What we don't want on that left side of the equation, we have the 4y, that's what we want. What I don't want is that 3x. So we're going to go ahead and put a negative 3x on both sides, because a negative 3x will take the positive 3x and negative 3x will be 0, so that's gone. We're left with a 4y equals, and on the right-hand side, those two are not like terms. They are not in the same family. So since we cannot combine them, we'll just write it out as negative 3x plus 24. You could write 24 minus 3x. That would be acceptable as well. Next, I've got 4y's. Well, I don't want 4y's. I just want 1y. So to get 1y, we can take this and we can divide by 4 on both sides by the division property of equality. When we divide 4y's divided by 4, I'm just left with a y. On the other side, we can distribute. So that turns into negative 3 over 4x plus 24 over x, or 24 over 4, excuse me. With a little simplifying, negative 3/4 x is fine. That is a fraction. We are not going to change it to a decimal. That's just fine. It'll be convenient when it comes time to graph. Slope is negative 3/4. Now the 24 divided by 4, we know that simplifies down to 6. So from this we can identify the slope as negative 3/4 and the y-intercept to be 0, 6. Now if I had it going the other way, let's say we had slope-intercept, and let's take a different equation. Y is equal to, let's do two of them here. Our first one will say 2x plus 5. And we want to change it to standard. And when we want to change it to standard, we want x and y on the same side. So looking at y equals 2x plus 5, the y is already on one side, the 2x is on the other, and the 5 is just fine. It's this 2x, I would like to have it join the y on the other side, so I don't want the 2x over here. So to eliminate that 2x, we'll subtract 2x from both sides. On the left-hand side, that does not combine. I get negative 2x and a positive y. They don't combine, so we'll just write it down. 2x and negative 2x, that'll zero out, and we're just left with 5. Now the last thing, even though that is in standard form, that x and y are on the same side, I've got my a, I got my b, and I've got my c. Generally, we don't like to have this first term to be a negative number. So what we can do is we could take both sides times negative 1. So multiply both sides by negative 1, and we get to distribute this inside, so we get a 2x minus y is equal to negative 5. Generally, I'd like to keep this being positive. If it's not positive, I can multiply both sides by a -1. The one other case to be aware of is if my slope-intercept is of the form, well, we'll go to -2/3 x plus 10. We know the slope, we know the y-intercept, but we want to change it into standard form. So we'll take this to standard. Again, I want the x and the y on the same side. So y is equal to -2/3 x plus 10. What we can do is we can add this -2/3 x. We're going to add 2/3 x to both sides of the equation. What that does, on the left-hand side, they're not like terms, so I will just write it out as 2/3 x plus y. And on the right-hand side, -2/3 x and +2/3 x again will zero out. We're just left with a +10. So my x and y are on the same side, my constant is on the other. The other thing that we like, besides the first term being positive, which it is in this case, generally we don't like to have fractions. There's not really any rule that says that it can't be, but you're going to generally find in standard form they aren't going to use any fractions. So we're going to clear it using the least common denominator. In this case, the denominator is 3. So like we did on the previous example where we multiplied both sides by a -1, in this one we're going to multiply both sides by 3. Multiplying both sides by the same number is acceptable. We can do that. So on the left-hand side, when we distribute in the 3 times 2/3 x will just be a 2x. 3 times y is 3y. And 3 times 10 will be 30. Now, it's positive in the leading term, and there are no fractions. Not something that you have to do, but generally something that you'll see when it comes time to write your answers in standard form.